to,
Yeah. Ready?
yep.
Okay.
Happy Friday to everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Also, happy International Women's Day. Exciting. Hey y'all, listen, this is a really important conversation, and we are going to keep this as casual as we can on purpose. We also have a small group today. So for those of you that are joining us from Higher Ed Partners, thank you so much for your interest in collaborating directly with industry partners who are working really hard. So if you're from a Higher Ed Partner and you'd like to tell us what school you're representing in the chat, that'd be great. If you are here and you might be a currently enrolled student veteran or recent graduate, I have a message for you that I want to just highlight. And I guess what I'll say first to that is kudos to you for finding every avenue possible and being proactive to get yourself in front of strong employers. So good on you for that. I'm going to share my screen just for a quick second. Can you all see it? Yep, good. All right. 50 Strong is an industry-led collaborative effort. And part of what we do is we try to make sure that we are driving as much collaboration possibility as possible. Our efforts are made possible by the employer partners that you see there, and we're incredibly grateful for their support. Really, our efforts are around how do we enable and connect at scale strong employers that have strong pathways to strong military talent. Y'all, student veterans and military affiliated students are a really important part of that. Before we get started, this is a casual industry-led share session. This is for overall information sharing, not individual consulting or problem solving, but it is just a casual share session. One of the things that we find is that, well, I'll speak for myself. I find that there is a tremendous amount of confusion between employers and those working in higher ed. And when we have confusion, that's never good for the students that we're all trying to reach. So again, this is just honest and open, transparent dialogue. The main session is being recorded, and we will post it publicly for playback. The breakout rooms, if we end up opening those, are not recorded, just for you to know. Okay. There are any student veterans or recent graduates here that may be currently looking for work. I want to just let you know, again, today's event looks different than other 50 Strong events that you may have been at before. Today's event is primarily meant for employers, higher ed partners, and community partners. If you're a student veteran, please join us for any Employer Connect event. We have them almost every single week. Lots of strong employers. Please also check out our website for key pathway sharing 24/7. Third thing, if you are a student veteran with us and you'd like to drop your info in the chat to let the employers know that you're here, I welcome you to do that now. Employers, also, if you see student veterans and you want to share any contact or URL information with them about your hiring efforts, please feel free to do that. Okay, before I introduce our guest speakers, per IVMF, 53% of those that enter the military do so for the education benefits. And I just want to pause for a second and let us all think about what that means. 53% for the education benefits. That's pretty high number, right? 86% of student veterans said a career or job is why they pursue higher education. So basically what that means is that group is in extended military transition, right? So a lot of times we'll hear employers talk about, oh, 200,000 that separate, 250,000 that separate every year. Yes, and about half of those are going into higher ed, which means for those that are really trying to figure out how to be military ready, we have to account for this group that is in extended military transition. For those of you that don't know, 50 Strong actually started as a way to try to tackle this problem statement that I kept hearing over and over and over again from really awesome employers. We have so many great roles for student veterans. We just don't know how to reach them efficiently. This is what we've been steadily working on now for 6 years. At our 50 Strong events, about 60% of those that join us are military affiliated students. But we have lots more work to do. Recent work that just came out, student veterans are 2 times more likely than other financially independent students to graduate when they do go to school. So what this tells us is, and I'd love to open the conversation with this, what this tells us is student veterans are applying all the strength that they got from the military, from their grit, their ability to get things done, and they are graduating. This is really, really important. Okay, that's it for me. Today, I want to welcome our speakers, and then we'll open it up for a little bit of dialogue. I am going to ask each of our speakers, I'm going to turn off the screen share, and I'm going to ask each of our speakers if they could just spend 30 seconds saying hello, introducing themselves, and then we will get going with our conversation. I am going to start with David O.
Hi, everyone. My name's David Ottavianelli, Army 9-year infantry veteran. I have the privilege and honor of leading our military outreach programs at John Deere. Happy International Women's Day to all the women leaders on this call. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, David. Next up, Stephanie Markich from Procter & Gamble.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Markich, an Army veteran as well. I spent 6 years in the Army as a transportation officer. Right when I got out, I came to work at Procter & Gamble. I've had lots of jobs in supply chain, purchasing, data and analytics, and then now I lead military recruiting for the company. I've been here for almost 19 years, so excited to talk to everyone and answer any questions and whatnot.
Thank you, Stephanie. From AWS, Nick Curry.
Hey friends, my name's Nick Curry. I lead AWS's emerging talent pipelines team. I've been with the company about 7.5 years. I'm a retired Navy enlisted submarine sailor, spent 12 years active duty, 8 years in the reserves. And we focus on all things emerging talent, which includes members of the military community and especially the spouses. And we create programming through all channels, through apprenticeship, through upskilling, through academic hiring, through everything. We want to make sure that we have a path for you. So thanks for letting me be here, Candy.
Absolutely, Nick. From Fortune 5 United Health Group, Barbara, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Candy. Good morning, everybody. I'm Barbara Beltram. I am a 21-year Navy retiree and also a military spouse. I am the program manager for military fellowships at United Health Group, which is for SkillBridge as well as the spouse fellowship program, and we're hoping to expand that as well. But I'm also a key collaborator and partner with our early careers team, which has a big focus this year on student veterans as well. So we're very excited to have this conversation today. Thanks, Candy.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbara. From Cushman & Wakefield, how are you, Matt Disher?
Hey, Candy. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Matt Disher. I lead military and veterans programs here at Cushman & Wakefield. Who the heck is Cushman & Wakefield? We're a global commercial real estate services company. So we manage about 5 billion square feet of property around the world. Perhaps one of those larger companies you've never heard of. Happy to be here. We do a lot of things in our program from the SkillBridge program on over to what we're trying to institute right now is more additional resources for student veteran internships and post-college full-time roles and things like that. So happy to be here. Thank you.
I mean, this is amazing just to hear that, right? We'll talk more about that. We're going to dig into that a little bit. From Lowe's, Rebecca, are you on? Rebecca, I know was on a flight till 2 a.m., but Alex, did you like to say a quick hello?
Yeah, I can. Hi guys, happy to be here. Happy to meet all of you. My name is Alex Barker. I am a military recruiter at Lowe's. I am an Army veteran and also a student veteran myself, currently pursuing my master's degree in data science. So I know exactly what you guys are going through. And, you know, Lowe's is really trying to reach more student veterans. As a matter of fact, the military recruiting and engagement team just absorbed the campus and university recruiting team. So now we are all on one team. And I'm working every single day with our university recruiters to try to get more student veterans. We have a goal this year to have our internship class that's coming in this summer be 10% student veterans. And we are on our way to exceeding that goal. So really happy to be here, answering some questions for you guys. Hopefully we can, bring you some knowledge and get to know you a little bit more. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Last but not least, Chantel, would you like to say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Chantel DeWall. I work with Candy at 50 Strong. And prior to that, my experience has been predominantly in student veteran hiring, both helping create and lead student veteran programs with Nick at AWS. And then prior to that, University of Hawaii, developing some internship programs under the Office of Naval Research. So super excited for these conversations today.
Awesome. Okay. For those of you that are joining us, if you'd like to turn your video on, great. If you'd like to leave it off, great. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and Chantel and I will keep an eye on those. I want to just start the conversation today. We just showed some recent findings from research that shows that student veterans are 2 times more likely to graduate. Is there anybody on this call that is surprised by those numbers? Great. All right. Then moving right along. For me, it simply points to the strength of the military community. So that's amazing to see the data, though, for sure. Hats off to Veterans Education Success for their efforts in that research, 100%. Many of you in your intros started with kind of organizationally where you sit and how you are collaborating with early talent or campus teams inside of your company. I want to open the conversation up because I think this is a really important place to start for our higher ed partners. Alex, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. To my knowledge, Lowe's is the one company in the country that has military talent fully integrated with campus recruiting. But this is new. And so for Alex, Matt, Nick, anybody that wants to talk to this, can you share a little bit about organizationally some of the current realities that you face when it comes to opening requisitions for student veterans and or collaborating with campus teams? Anybody can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, personally in our recent experience, again, it's very new. But it's actually something that so for those of you who did not know, we were originally separate, 2 separate managers. We had Mike Piper as our manager. University team had a different manager who left very suddenly. So Mike was asked to take over interim leadership of university. And while he was kind of temporarily overseeing both of us, we had the opportunity to interact, which, we see each other in the office all the time, but actually being able to work together and partner together, even before the decision was made to combine our 2 teams, it was something that I was telling Mike, I think this is something that we should do, because in the very short time that I have had the opportunity to work with university recruiters, there have been all kinds of benefits in terms of collaboration, knowledge sharing. University recruiting had the 10% student veterans goal since last year. That was something that we had asked them to try to accomplish. They didn't understand what it meant until we were on the same team, and they had a point of contact in me and Mike and Rebecca that they could go to like, hey, Alex, I've got this resume, it's got military experience on here, but I'm not quite sure what this means. Like there really wasn't anything stopping them before from coming to us and asking those questions. But just being on the same team and being able to kind of break down the barrier of, the departmental barrier, made that discourse a lot more open. And it also gave us the opportunity to, now we're sharing our wins. So when me and Rebecca are extending offers for roles for SkillBridge to veterans, and we're putting this on our wins that we're now sending to the entire team, now we're getting other team members who are like, hey, I noticed that you put this as something that you got done this week. Can you tell me more about it? So I think that partnership is really important, and just opening up that discourse, opening up those conversations, kind of creating that space for questions where maybe university recruiters are like, I don't want to, like, this might be a stupid question. I don't want to ask it and risk looking stupid.
Thank you, Alex, for that. To our other speakers, does anybody want to chime in on this organizational piece and collaboration or not with campus recruiters?
Yeah, I can, Candy. Our early careers team has been established longer than our military DEI hiring team. So really tapping into their pre-established relationships and figuring out how can we support what they're doing in their role for their internship programs, and then adding that additional layer of, you also have military affiliated offices at all of these campuses that you're already working with. Let's tap into them and partner together. And so being able to utilize the skills of the campus teams and really becoming, like Alex said, that whole team, even if you can't combine like Lowe's did. I went to UTSA with my campus partner, and she's the one with all the contacts, but she brought me along, and we were able to make a new relationship with the military affairs offices down in San Antonio at 2 separate colleges, just because we're like, hey, let me see how I can help you, which in turn is going to get more student veterans into our relationships. So really tapping into the pre-established relationships that are already there. If you have a campus team in your industry, in your business, is super helpful. You don't have to start from scratch. And so that would be what UHG is doing.
And so for Procter & Gamble, we just recently added a full-time role that for me, and now I'm moving into our talent group. So I'll be sitting with, all the folks doing, the on-campus hiring and whatnot. And I will say one of the challenges is, we're going to campus. I think there's sometimes the disconnect between, whoever, whatever the military organization is on the campus and then everything else. So, we've tried numerous ways to tap into it. And I think some of the challenges as you look at like, oh, we have a student veterans group. Okay, well, if this person's getting their MBA, they're there for 2 years and then they're moving on. So there's like a lot of turnover and a disconnect, and maybe the exercises and things aren't joint between the on campus when the companies are coming on campus, and then including the military office. And so I definitely think that's a challenge. And I think one of the other things when we look at student veterans, in a lot of cases, a student veteran is not the typical student. They're maybe married, they have a family, they don't live on campus, so they're not necessarily getting the information, and then they're kind of behind in the hiring process. So I'm sure, like everyone here, fall is we're going to start recruiting on campus, right when school starts, September, late August, September, that kind of thing. And then, I'll use this example. Maybe this isn't like the right example. So Student Veterans of America has their huge national conference in January. Totally makes sense. It's when everyone's off for the holidays. However, at that point in time, our internships are gone for the summer. We fill them all in the fall, and then we're just rounding out last minute things after Christmas. So I think it's making sure that the information gets to the veterans, and it's a joint effort versus separate. And we then run into issues where, you're asking companies to sponsor things or come in. It's not 2 separate pools of money. It's kind of one pot of money. So if there could be more coming together, I think it would be beneficial for everyone.
Matt, David, Nick, any feedback, or you want me to push us along?
It's funny, just a point of reference here. I was the student veteran that Stephanie was just talking about. After 4 years in the Marines, I was enlisted, came out, and I was completely disconnected from the student veteran organizations at my college. the information that was out there. I had to go find everything on my own. This was a little bit, this was a little while ago too. So the systems and methods of communication don't exist or didn't exist back then that exist now. Our challenges are that our programs are specifically separate. Military and Veterans Program operates separate from our early in career, and unlike Procter & Gamble, we actually wait until the second half of the year to start recruiting interns, which is completely opposite of how most other places do it. And most other places I've ever worked that do it. A lot of that is because I would call it sort of a knee jerk. In some of our offices, we have these brokerage offices all over the United States. Every major or medium-sized city has a brokerage office. And what ends up happening is in January, they get their approved budgets for the coming year. And then that team says, all right, well, we've got budgets for 3 interns to come and work in brokerage. So ours is a little bit on the backside of the year. We're going and getting maybe the people that didn't plug into something already, which could be good or could be bad. I'm not really sure. But we as an organization, my team is right now focused on, we're trying to get in better with the internships so that we can have traditional summer internships and slot a few of those or a handful of those across the country for student veterans. But the other big focus that we're looking at is, the post-college careerism. It might not be a fit for internships and things like that, but the abundance of student veterans leaving college, finishing and graduating, we have a ton of jobs open everywhere for those men and women. So a little bit different maybe from what everybody else is focused on.
Hey, Nick, I feel like you have a really unique point of view given your work. You mind to just share a little bit about what you're seeing?
Yeah. So I'd say we're a mix of all of the things that have been discussed so far. We are connected to our early career talent team. A lot of people think, why is the military early career talent? And we describe it as they're early in their corporate career. While they may have a lot of lived experiences, retired 4 to 20 years of service, they're new to corporate. So that's why we consider them that. And that helps with the transition to make it easier because they're coming in primarily to entry-level roles. I think the other thing that's super unique about student veterans in general is what some of the other folks have identified. A traditional internship where you come in the summer isn't going to work for a lot of student veterans. And so I know companies really enjoy saying that they're military ready, which is fantastic to be military ready, but I don't think a lot of companies are actually military student veteran ready because they don't have options outside of a traditional 12-week internship in the summer. Sounds like a lot of people on this call are super aware of that and doing things, which is awesome. But for anyone else on the call, especially higher ed partners that have non-traditional students, the biggest obstacle to getting your students careers post-academic life is that internship blocker. I would challenge a lot of people to tell me that if you don't have an internship, you're not going to get a job, because that is the main way that people hire college students, is through that internship experience. And so we're trying to be as creative as possible with our student veterans. For us personally, when Chantal was here, actually, we had our first ever SkillBridge military veteran. They were transitioning out of the military and they were finishing up their computer science degree, and it just worked out perfectly where they could spend the last 12 weeks interning with us. So just think about the ways that you can stack on all the other military programs that you're already familiar with and likely using in your company today for that. And then the other thing, just to talk to hiring managers, at Amazon, a lot of people have a perception about military where they may think that they're a certain thing or they've come through a certain program, and they don't realize that military people get out, and same with spouses, and then go to college. So we always have to tell them, the interns you normally get, this is the exact same population. They just are also vets or military spouses. And it kind of like blows their mind a little bit because they don't think a lot of people realize that people get out of the military to go to school as much. So it's our job to help change that narrative inside our company. And so that's what we're trying to do as well.
Amazing. David, go for it. I see you over there.
Hey, Candy, we've learned a lot. This was, we were underutilizing this pathway. John Deere was in our military outreach programs, and it came to the realization probably last year at NASPA that Candy invited me too, and we met a lot of the great folks on this call. So this has been a shift, and trying to improve our processes here. It has to be linked to your campus outreach teams, because they're going to go through that same process, right, of applying for internships and then different roles, with a little caveat. And we've had some great successes on this, of having veterans be able to talk with those student veterans from DEER, through the career services, helps relieve a lot of anxiety and helps them craft that path and options to review. So I see a lot of chats about, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I look at these? We felt this one-on-one. An example, I was just in Iowa State on Wednesday. Veterans Career Services, Rita Case, did an excellent job of setting up an information session, very informal. We got a number of different potential leads to talk through it after discussions. Another key thing I tell folks to look at at DEER, right, we have a lot of what's called part-time student roles. And that's typically where you work all summer and then a portion of your school year, but that establishes that relationship with those hiring managers, and then you're helping them realize how good you are, right, as a student. And that's a great opportunity because we're flexible on the hours, right? And that you can do, especially during the school year. So, and then Candy, one final comment too, when we host SkillBridge, we see a lot of them potentially even going into school and then using that as a mechanism to stay connected with the company. I think is a great thing to think about. So SkillBridge first, if you're going to school, you know what I mean, and then continue that relationship through that contact.
Can I ask y'all, do your companies have target school lists for your campus hiring? And how does that work for students that may be at other schools?
I think every company has target school lists. And so if there happen to be student veterans there, that's great. I think someone else mentioned this on the call, that they were realizing this is an untapped market. I think those other schools that student veterans go to, which, you know, if you pay attention to 50 Strong, you always get that list of those schools where most veterans go, which is great. So if you're paying attention, like I am, then you'll see that list. And I think you'll look at a lot of those schools and you'll realize that there are a lot of student veterans going to schools outside of your traditional brick and mortar top 10 schools that you're normally recruiting from. So I think it is important that you understand that and pay attention to that and find ways creatively, like David mentioned. Love that part-time, flexible option for non-traditional student veterans that have that connection to the company. That's super critical. We're trying to build something like that here. So I think those other schools that where, if you were a student veteran like me and you were working while going to your degree, like you can't just take a 12-week internship because you're paying for your school and you have another career. So I think it's important to know where those other schools are. Pay attention to 50 Strong's list. They'll help you. But that's critical to attracting that talent.
We have target schools for sure, like hundreds across the nation. But that doesn't mean that somebody who's from a different school can't apply or be considered for careers or recent grad programs or anything like that. So our early careers recruiting team is cognizant about if there is obviously we don't know if they're a veteran because it's protected, but if it's on the resume and they say it, then they might reach out to Shane or me or somebody else in the ERG to help with translation if that's needed. But there's no limit on what schools can or can't be considered. We just have efforts going to the target schools. We have people going to the campuses and doing the career fairs that they have. But every single school, as long as it's accredited, is eligible for selection for any of our programs.
Candy, I had a question if you didn't mind.
Please jump in.
Piggybacking off of the targeted school lists, completely understand that they're, even if they're not on the list, they're absolutely eligible and open. But if there is a number of schools who predominantly have a higher veteran demographic, or has there been any obstacles in communicating with the campus teams to redefine what the target school list is in order to capture that talent? Because you know, if you look at the list and you're looking at these, you know, top tier schools or Harvard or whatever, there's not a lot of veterans. So if you want to hire the veterans, you want to go where the veterans go to school. So like, has there been any pushback in terms of redefining what a good targeted school list looks like in order to capture that talent?
I would say for us, definitely. So when we look at our schools and we categorize them into tiers, where tier one is going to be our core schools, it's mostly going to be geographic. And because of the nature of like what our company does, what Lowe's does, we're not, I mean, if you go to Harvard, that's great. But we're looking at like UNC Charlotte. We're looking at Central Piedmont Community College. We are focusing more geographically. How do we get into trade schools? How do we focus on, getting interns, student veterans from our community, or maybe, they were from North Carolina. When they did their service, they came back home. They live over in Greensboro now, and we want to, target them there. Most of them are going to go to school at CBCC. So we're not really focused on prestige, I think. We're looking at our target demographic, we're looking at our community, and how do we find talent that is going to be that is going to fit our needs and also kind of elevate that population.
And I think you hit it when you said geography. So Procter & Gamble, we're headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. UC, Xavier are right here. So schools that we recruit from, they're here in Cincinnati. We go up to Ohio State, again in Ohio. So I think it's companies, one, have limited budgets. So they have target schools based upon, where we've seen success and hired. We're in the Midwest. We're going to have a hard time pulling people from Florida, California. I mean, it's not unheard of.
I mean, fun fact, I went to Procter & Gamble from Alabama after undergrad.
So, and, we then also focus, so that's our global headquarters when we're doing these efforts. We have limited budget. We're trying to actually, have like get the high ROI, but we would never exclude anyone. So anyone can obviously apply. We're looking at the skills, the resume, the degree, and then I'll add another thing. So we have a plant in Iowa City. So obviously we recruit locally there from, Iowa State's right there. So University of Iowa, whatever my Iowa geography isn't great. We can have David O chime in.
I'll help you.
So we're definitely looking for the best talent, but when you have a limited budget, you make different choices. So I will say every year we review our targeted schools. And then if we, get a few folks that maybe went to whatever university and they want to help lead up the effort and get more people to come, we definitely are flexible and looking at that list ongoing. We ultimately want to, hire the best person to come and have a career with P&G.
Candy, I just want to add for Alex's and Stephanie's comments, location to the student veteran is a critical element of this. So if they're willing to travel and do all these, go to different locations, it's fine, but most are not.
And I believe you just hired a student veteran from William and Mary. Is that correct?
We have. Now the reason we did on that one, this is a great example. They had just gotten out. They went to school, their spouse was still active, and they were getting stationed at the Rock Island Arsenal. So location matters, and it's up to them. I don't want to force veterans and students to say, you need to go to these locations. And at Deere, it's a little easier because we got dealerships that, are nationwide, right? That we could support veterans in doing this. But it's very difficult. That's like 80% of our conversation is about location.
Yep.
The other 15 is skills and what type of work they want to do.
So I have a couple questions to my employer partners. Raise your hand if you know what handshake is. Raise your hand if you are using handshake to find student veterans. Okay. I also want to ask this follow-up question. If you wanted to connect with student veterans at a particular school, who would you reach out to do that? If you
Student
want to connect with
Services
student
Advisor.
veterans for employment prospects, who would you reach out to?
Yeah, those veteran career services leaders, Candy, that relationship
Veteran
is
career
critical.
services leaders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some schools don't have that though.
Yes, which is my point. So,
Yeah, so
anybody else?
yeah.
Sorry, Tim, just hang on a second if you don't mind.
Yep.
Other employers that are doing really good work in this area, this is part of what I'm trying to get to. Who do you reach out to, or who would you think you should reach out to?
So if you're a if you're a hiring company that has a relationship with a campus, you're going to start with that relationship first, and then find out if they even have a veteran place to reach out to. But that's where we would like to also create an easier way for student veterans to come into us with all of our students. So we try to limit the confusion. So we try to just have single points of contact with the school so that we can then let them direct us to where the right solution is for student veterans.
Anybody, Matt, do you have thoughts on who to reach out to? David, I mean, you shared student veteran career services. Some schools don't even have student veteran career services, right? So this is part of the complexity.
We usually have
other veterans.
we usually have points of contact with each school. Where exactly that person sits is going to be highly dependent on the school. But typically, I think, like Nick was saying, we typically reach out to that person first, and then they know the school, they know the structure of the school. If there is somewhere that we need to go, someone we need to be referred to from there.
Yeah.
That's typically how it works.
Before I started 50 Strong, I went to work in higher ed for 18 months. And let me tell you, it was the most enlightening and frustrating time of my career. And it was predominantly because employers would have this idea, oh, if I want to reach student veterans, I should reach out to this veteran center. And then what I saw was, well, the veteran center is like, well, but we don't do career, so you need to go talk to career services. And then career services were like, well, we don't really understand the difference, or we don't do that, or we may have a student veteran career fair once a year. So I want to give a huge shout out to Bruce Grissom, who is down at the University of Arizona. Fun fact, 50 Strong started because Bruce Grissom helped me pay my bills, along with Amazon and a couple of other partners those first 6 months. So Bruce, I want to thank you. And I remember something that you said so distinctly. You and Cody saw immediately, we want our student veterans to be able to connect at more than just the maybe once a year career fair that we may have on our campus. So Bruce, I just want to give you a shout out. I know you're on mute, but I wanted to give you a shout out and say thank you again.
Thanks, Candy. Yeah, we're doing our best. And to that point about between our vet center and career services, our career services team has a veteran page on their site that, and one of the things that my team and I are trying to work here is we're trying to get those efforts more closely aligned, because career services has an idea of what our veteran students should be doing. And we in our vet center, our resource center here on campus, have an idea of what our students should be doing. And sometimes they align closely. And I do meet with our career services folks as well. But it's challenging to get our efforts synergized in a way that makes the most sense.
Thank you, Bruce. I sometimes think that higher ed thinks that employers have it all figured out. And I sometimes think that employers think that higher ed has it all figured out. And the reality is nobody has it all figured out, right? We're all just doing our best. To our speakers today, what are the things that you're working on today that you think may be helpful to opening new pathways, new engagement? I'd love to just hear a little bit about where your focus is as far as it relates to student veterans, maybe over the next year.
We're trying to be more deliberate at Amazon in connecting with community college students. And we know that this is not unique to the student veteran population, but community college students in general are working adults. And so traditional internships are almost impossible for community college students. So we're trying our best to couple community college with apprenticeships so that there's that earn and learn mentality. So as a community college student, instead of like me working at the mall when I went to community college, I would work at Amazon as an apprentice while I was going to school so that I wouldn't have to worry about employment. And then also I would be working in the career field that I chose to enroll into in a community college. So we're trying to combine community college with apprenticeships, and we're looking to do that this year.
I love it.
Andy, three things that we're going to focus on here. First, like Nick said, the community college is a big deal for us in those hands-on types of roles. Second is engaging. We find a cross-section between the relationships of the schools, National Guard, and reservists in those location areas. So that's a great combination. In these last couple of meetings, a lot of the students are in the National Guard and using GI Bill, et cetera, to do that. And then third, especially on the timing of next fall for internships, getting ahead of that game and coordinating better with our HR professionals.
Thank you, David. You've come a long way in a year, David.
It's been hard, but you helped. You helped. Chantel's been a great help too. You know the pain.
Yeah.
Candy,
Sorry. So for us, like I was saying earlier, we are trying to get more involved in community college, trying to bring in more students from the community around our headquarters in Charlotte. Our internships are paid, so we're trying to mitigate the financial cost that it takes to come in and do an internship for 12 weeks. We're also investing in our new Track to the Trades program for those going through trade school. Still students, still learning, making it easier for them to get into all the different trades that a lot of the time rely on those. And then just being a little bit more intentional, especially with our combination of military and university teams, and getting me more involved with the entire internship process and having me work with the university recruiters in terms of solicitation, working with business areas, making sure that there is a military presence in the entire internship selection process.
Yeah. Y'all, we had one other speaker that had a conflict, but he is on now. Michael McCoy from a little company called Verizon. McCoy, I know you're on mute and off camera. If you do want to just talk a little bit about kind of what you're seeing in the student veteran space or anything that you're working on, you're welcome to do so. Or not, it's fine.
Hey, while he's coming on, Kenny, I got a fourth. And we do this today, and I want a lot of folks to realize this. Collaborate with other businesses. There may not be a match at Deere, but they may be a match with Stephanie in Iowa City, right? Of someone, because that location is coming there. So share those candidates. I'm going to do a shout out to two folks that are on the call today. Amy and Michael from large companies in Iowa, learning about all this. I think it's a great opportunity to leverage and share the network.
We were talking on the previous subject. It was about all the different places where we can go and find this talent, right? And Candy, you just put a note in here, like 9,000 schools that take post
something like that,
bill funds, et cetera, et cetera. So part of our big investment is because and this goes back a few topics, like we can't, because of budgets and because of constraints and personnel, we can't be at every school. We can't be everywhere. So our big investments have been in digital media, at large, reaching the veteran population, student veterans, military spouses, et cetera, through the places where they are going to spend their time digitally. So a lot of that's social media. We've got an idea on the docket right now. This is just a cool little This is a cool little foreshadowing of something to come this year, but a podcast. And all of this will be digitally.
It's not a foreshadowing if you say it.
It's not foreshadowing. What am I talking? It's a sneak peek. It's preview. But a lot of people are going to be involved in that because the what we found is that we're finding and attracting those people through investing in the places where they are. It's virtually impossible to get to 8,000 schools, right? It's virtually impossible to have people that can go in and do all of that. It's a lot of contact. And a lot of us are limited on how many people we have working on our team. So that's one thing we're doing. The second thing we're doing to mention the team is we're changing some of the roles of the people on our team. So we've got a military and veterans program team. We've got 3 people dedicated full-time to these programs. One specifically has run almost exclusively SkillBridge. Now we're going to expand that role to do a couple of additional things in there. Part of that conversation is SkillBridge continues to become, more and more companies, more and more organizations participating. So we're going to try to expand the aperture a little bit and do things a little bit differently to continue to increase the numbers of veterans and student veterans and military spouses and the whole community into our respective business. But it becomes evolution. It has to evolve. It has to continue to evolve because I think, Candy, you and I were talking yesterday. You said whatever we were doing 3 years ago doesn't work today. That's right. And I completely agree. When I started doing this type of work 12 years ago in companies, the best way we reached veteran talent was magazine ads. That was the only way we reached talent back then. It was GI Jobs ads. That's how people used to spend $100,000 a year on GI Jobs ads, just to give you an example of how much has evolved.
Y'all, I have a couple of slides that I wanted to quickly share with you. For those of you that may be in higher ed right now, running veteran centers or career services, or if you're students, I want to just remind you, we have virtual events often, and we welcome your students as an easy way to opt in, to talk to the folks that you've heard from here, plus lots of other employers. So this is an event we're having in a week and a half, 2 weeks. You can see some of the really awesome employers that are there. One of the things that we work really hard on, y'all, is to get the right person or groups of people at those employers to these events. Generally, these are the military talent leaders that understand the veteran experience and that can help navigate within their company and champion for jobs that are currently open. So we're adding employers to this often, but this one is going to be on the 21st. I also just wanted to quickly share with you a snapshot of one that we did a week ago. We had about almost 600 register, which was actually low for us. But what I wanted to call out for you all is 54% of those that registered are currently in an education or training program. I also wanted to call out that almost 40% of those were E1 through E5. Y'all, student veterans are an awesome group. They are opting in, and I want to tell you why they are joining. It is because those of you that run Veteran Center leaders at our higher ed partners are sharing this with your students, and we are immensely grateful for that. 86% said they found out about new employment pathways. Employers, fun fact, they're willing to relocate for the right role. So let's make sure they have the right roles. I also wanted to share one of the things that we do after every event is we go through and we look at the top schools of everybody that registered. Where did they tell us that they are enrolled or an alum of that school? Y'all, we share this with all the employers that join each of these calls. So this is the top 10 from our last event. You can see that we have it broken out by degree granting institutions versus non-degree granting institutions. The point is most people are going to school if they need a job on the back end. So for our partners that are sharing out about these efforts, thank you. These are weighted based on number of schools because we want it to be fair for those schools that have smaller populations. On our website, we have student listings that are available 24/7 for any student internships. We also now have apprenticeship listings. We certainly have SkillBridge listings. If those are helpful, please feel free to leverage that. Hey, higher ed partners, this is all free for you. Thanks to the support of the employers that you're hearing from today. We offer tools for you to easily share out with your students at no charge, thanks to the support of our partners, because we know that everybody has limited budgets, right? So I encourage you, if you're not already a partner of ours, please sign up for that. If you have questions, Chantel can certainly help you. We have about 10 minutes left. We can either open up breakout rooms for y'all to have some one-to-one conversations with our speakers, or we can stay together as a group for Q&A. I'm going to ask for feedback from my employer partners on what they would like to do. Stay together or open up breakout rooms for 10 minutes.
I'm happy to stay together.
That's amazing.
Stay together.
Amazing.
Like
Fantastic. Y'all, last thoughts. Does anybody have questions? Please feel free to just raise your hand in the Zoom if you do have a question and you'd like to come off mute. Nobody has questions?
Come on now. I know there's questions.
Sure, I hate awkward silences. I'll go.
Hey, James.
Hi, I'm James. I'm from Washington State University. One of the biggest questions we get from our students is how to approach companies. What is the best way for a student to go about reaching out to your company? Is it just going on your website? Do they fill out an interest card like what David's saying for John Deere? What is the best way we can direct our students to approach you all?
Yes. I think I'll generalize it, and I won't make it specific to John Deere's process, because we do feel that conversation is critical. But most companies, and I'll ask the other ones, that will have a military hiring veterans page or something where they can connect and reach out, I think. But I think that's important. It's so difficult if you have a veteran apply to a role where there's thousands of applicants to figure that out, right? That's not going to work. So we have to personalize it and help them. And we do a lot of coaching, right? Hey, I don't think you're a fit for that role, or I think this is better. And I think that helps to avoid frustration. I have a meeting with somebody that applied for 43 positions. My first question is, which roles? And you know what I mean? I'm trying to figure that out, and right, that we can help them.
I also think in the process, if a company has a question asking if you're a veteran or if you're served in the military, it's to your benefit to always mark yes. And for us, I pull data and pull stuff on that specific question and look for the veterans, and then have that secondary conversation of what are they looking for? What do they want to do? I think it just kind of, in my case, helps the candidate from getting lost in the big black box of resumes and whatever. At least that's how I'd handle it from P&G. Oh, and one other piece of advice that I always give people, because I've done this, candidates reach out to you and then maybe you don't hear right back and you give up. Recruiters, people doing all this stuff are busy. I read lots of emails every day, lots of LinkedIn messages. I occasionally forget one and don't respond. So if you really want to work for a company, don't take that personally. Know that these people are super busy and they're not purposefully ignoring you. So you're owning your career. You kind of need to go and do all those next steps and just make sure that you're following up to the point of not being creepy and annoying, but that you're owning it and you're following up, sending one email and then giving up. I mean, it's your future. You want to find a job. That's probably not the most effective way.
Yeah, squeaky wheel. I mean, even if it's as simple as, trying to find either a campus or university recruiter on LinkedIn or military talent representative on LinkedIn, and hey, throw a sentence in there. If you're not the person that I should be talking to about this, would you mind referring me to the person who is? And just trying to find that person. I know we have team inboxes. So we have a military recruiting inbox, we have a university recruiting inbox. Those are on our websites. So you're more than welcome to reach out to those in addition to applying. I think a personalized note is something that can never hurt. Hey, just submitted my application for this internship, for this role, graduating from this place. I'm super excited about your company, the opportunities. Would love to have a discussion about it.
And again, let me just say, we want to make this as easy as possible. So if leveraging 50 Strong, where all these folks plus a lot more are at for your students, we are happy for your students to always join us for that.
Mm-hmm. I will send a resume over to a recruiter anytime.
Awesome. We have time for another question or two. Anybody? Hi, Michael McCoy.
Can I ask a question?
You sure can.
Sorry,
Do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah. Hey, my name is Michael McCoy. I am the head of military programs at Verizon. I also lead, I'm going to call it non-traditional talent to this population because normally it's emerging talent, but that really means campus, and I don't lead campus. So I do apprenticeships, I do alternate pathways, and I do high school STEM engagements. And then all the other random stuff that people don't want to do usually comes to me. So the good idea fairies just dropping off ideas at my desk all the time. It's great. I would love it. So much fun. But so my question is, so I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to Mississippi State University and a great military-friendly school, the Montgomery GI Bill, proud Mississippi veteran. And so when I think about how we engage, stop that. When I think about how we engage populations across universities, you know, we see high engagement from military-focused faculty, such as the Vet Center and things like that. I don't see them pulling through students into events and opportunities. From your all's perspective, outside of like it's hard or they have a family or nights and weekends, whatever, it doesn't align with their graduation schedule, why do we have a struggle to get military connected students to activate into geographic population events, virtual events like 50 Strong, things like that? Like, why is that a struggle?
If I can speak on this quickly, at least at FIU, what we're seeing here is that as non-traditional students, a lot of students here don't feel connected with the university in the same way as a freshman would, because the idea of a university is the parties, the lifestyle, the campus life, things like that. And that engagement pulls in a lot of students as freshmen. But as an older student with a family, with all these things, you don't feel as connected to campus life as a traditional student. So it's very difficult to bring them in and involve themselves in these events unless SVA is present. Unless it's really, really pushed by the Veteran Center.
That part about really, really pushed by the Veteran Center is really important.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I could input, yeah. Just through my school experience, and I don't have any data to back this up. I would be really interested in seeing some. I'm a distance learner. I have a job. My school is in California. I'm on the East Coast. I go into Handshake and I look at events that employers are doing, and they're all on site. So, I mean, this is where things like 50 Strong are great because it's virtual. But otherwise, if I want to participate in things like that, then I would have to, go to the expense of getting a plane ticket, finding a hotel or somewhere to stay. And just thinking about the military population, how many of them are actually living on campus, and how many of them are utilizing other distance learning opportunities in schools where maybe that's not something that they would be able to do. I know we talked a lot about geography and our target schools are all close to our headquarters, but it is something that I'm trying to insert into our conversations at Lowe's is like, hey, I know we're targeting schools in the North Carolina area, but how do we facilitate exposure, getting exposure to students who are doing distance learning?
Y'all, we are at the end of our time. I'm happy to keep this going for a few more minutes if folks want to extend and do have a question. All right, McCoy, does that help answer for you a little bit?
I mean, it does. I mean, I have my own opinions. Like the Chantel's piece of, you go to school to get a job, and I think that there's a lack of understanding of like what gets you a job.
Yep. Yeah.
And to Alex's point, even though she crushed me the last time we were on a panel together, and I'll be nice to her. I appreciate my Lowe's friends. The geographic misalignment piece, I think, is hard as like we look at like distance learners and things like that. But to a certain extent, you got to be where your feet are. If you're going to a local college university, whether you're in the Charlotte area, the Nashville area, the South Bend, Indiana, I'm wearing a Notre Dame shirt today, so I'll just talk about Notre Dame. And there's an opportunity to do an event there. I think you should try to aggregate there if that's where you want to go. I'm just not seeing them say, oh, well, that's important. I'm just going to go on LinkedIn and apply to a job. And because I'm a student veteran, I'll get that job. I just feel like that's still a struggle of at what point who's going to tell them that they got to meet people.
And just really, really
the hard part of
briefly,
that.
I'm so sorry, just really briefly. Just because my director and I have been talking about this, I was literally hired to push career services and things like that in our veteran center here at FIU. We are going to be doing a hiring event as well. I think it's also very difficult for students to say, well, yeah, like another resume event or another career services event. Yeah, that's great, but I'm not there to just do some schmoozing. Like I want to get hired. So I think that also hiring events specifically are really, really important. I think that we're going to see an increase in engagement at a hiring event as opposed to just a networking event. So I think maybe doing those would be really important and increase engagement on campus.
Agreed. We find that too. They're not interested in the fluff, right? They're interested in the employers that have the jobs. And then if those employers can sneak in some career preparation of like, here's how you actually get a job, that's really a win. Question is, how can we get that done earlier, I think. Yep. Bruce, thank you. Y'all, anybody else have any last comments they want to offer? Okay. All right.
I appreciate y'all. Thanks for.
We appreciate you, McCoy. Y'all, I really appreciate the conversation. We will do this more often. Again, we welcome all of your students to 50 Strong Efforts. It's free for everybody. So thank you so much for today. I appreciate the sharing. I hope this has been helpful. Higher ed partners, here's what I hope you're also taking away. Employers are in a different place today on student veterans than they were a year ago, 2 years ago, certainly 5 years ago, right? They're working quickly. We're grateful for that, and we appreciate your efforts as they are moving forward. Awesome. All right. Thank you all. We appreciate you. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thanks.
Happy Friday.